Be me, 22 and in college. Doing a lot of drinking, so I spend most of my free time in bars. One night, I'm alone, friends have all left. Depressed about finals, so I stay and keep drinking the pain away. Great idea, I know. Gets to be really late. It's like me and 2 other people in the entire place. It's Wednesday, so not a lot going on anywhere, I guess. Talking to the bartender about whatever. Someone sits right next to me. Kinda try to ignore it, but whoever it is right next to me. Like, I can practically feel them pressing up against me. Very drunk and pissed, so I make a point to scoot away. Shoot a nasty glance at whoever it is. It's some older guys with a patchy beard and dark glasses. Almost like they're tinted, but not enough to be sunglasses. What a weirdo, I think. Keep talking to the bartender. In the middle of a sentence, the guy leans over and says to me, "You're warm." I give him the "what the fuck is wrong with you" glance. He smiles this big grin at me, tells me his name is John, holds out his hand for me to shake. Bartender looks as weirded out as I do, shakes the guy's hand just to get him to go away. His hand is ice fucking cold. Not like, oh, I'm cold. Cold. Like he just came out of a walk-in freezer. It's the middle of May. Guy asks what I'm drinking. Vodka Coke, I say, and then go back to my conversation, thinking he has to have gotten the point. Nope, ask me how my drink tastes. But he asked it really weird. Not like, oh, how is it? But like, he wants me to describe the taste. Good, I say just like that. John laughs and orders the same. Says, well, if you like it so much, I'll have to try it. Bartender makes it for him. Both of us are now watching this dude. Guy picks up the glass in a really weird way, puts his palms flat on either side and lifts it without using any of his fingers. He drinks the entire thing in one go. Holy shit, I think this guy's a piece of work. Puts the glass down and smiles at me. As for another, bartender is a little weirded out but gives it to him. This time, he just leaves it there and focuses back on me. What are you, young man? He asks. Are you in education? Oh, yeah. He nods like this is some huge accomplishment, since apparently he's here to stay, and I say fuck it and ask him what he does. He gives me this really wide smile. His teeth are perfect, which for some reason is weird to me. Oh, I'm in education as well. I'm learning all the time. He laughs like this is a big joke to him or something. Just sit there awkwardly, like a teacher or... John winks at the bartender for some reason, but doesn't say anything. Bartender gives me a look and goes to do something else. Thanks, asshole, I think. Now I'm alone with the weirdo. John has a weird way of looking at me, like he's sizing me up and studying me at the same time. Yeah, I'm not gay or whatever. I say to make sure he's not trying to hit on me. He scoots closer to me. I scoot away. He comes closer. Okay, what the fuck? Now I'm starting to get pissed again. Man, back off, I tell him. John ignores me. Asks me another question. What do you think of strangers? I'm noticing now that everything he says with a smile, like a car salesman, or someone trying really hard to be less fucking weird than they are. I tell him I like it when they leave me alone. He just smiles. Everyone is a stranger to someone else, you know? Until they get to know each other. Thanks for the fucking life advice? I finish my drink and get up. Fuck this. Decide I'll just go get a bottle of something at a store and get drunker at home. John keeps smiling up at me. Put my money on the counter. John watches me do this. He stands and reaches into his pockets. Pulls out fucking massive wad of cash. Like a kind of mobster would have or something. What the fuck? He puts 100 on the counter. Watching me. Like he's expecting me to tell him it's the right amount. Turn around and walk out without saying anything. About 50 feet from my car when I notice there's another set of footsteps crunching behind me. Oh, fuck this. Get to my car and unlock it. Get inside, shut the door, and lock it right away. Not even fully closed when John comes up to the window, bends down so he could see inside. His face is right up to the glass. Fuck off, man, I say. He just smiles at me. Fuck off, man. He repeats it, exactly the same. Officially weirded out. I'm considering calling the cops or something. He keeps smiling in at me, and that's when I notice, even though he's smiling, his eyes aren't. They're cold, and suddenly I feel very uncomfortable. Back off, man, or you're gonna get hit, I tell him. What was that drink you gave me? He asks. I'd like to get it again someday. Give him... What? Tell him it's a vodka Coke. He nods and does this weird tapping thing on the glass with one finger. Thank you. His fingers pressed against the glass, and that's when I noticed that the motherfucker has no fingerprints. Not only that, but he's close enough that he should be leaving breath fog on the glass. He's not. This fucker isn't breathing. His finger leaves no trace of anything on the glass. I'm officially done with this shit. Start the car and put it in reverse. I very much liked your jokes. Start backing up very slowly, but he just stays put. Figure if I run over his feet, it's his own problem for not getting out of my way. I'm glad you were here to teach them to me. Somehow, I didn't run him over, and I managed to get far away enough to turn and leave. Watch him in the mirrors as I go. He just stands there and watches. Went back to the bar a few weeks later. Asked the bartender about John. Apparently after I left, John came back in and sat at the bar until closing. He didn't order anything else to drink. He didn't drink the vodka he'd already ordered. He just held it in his palms and watched the bartender. Bartender didn't say anything to him the entire time until telling the guy he has to leave. John didn't put up a fuss, just gets up and leaves. Bartender locks up and is about to leave when John appears again right next to the window and taps on the glass. Bartender asks if he needs him to call a taxi. John doesn't say yes or no, he just smiles and thanks the bartender for teaching him so much. Offers his hand. Bartender shakes it. Drives off like a bat out of hell. I don't know if you noticed, Anon, but I did. Noticed what? I asked. When he drank, he didn't swallow, not once. It just went right down into him. The motherfucker was in there for 4 hours, and not once did he cough, blink, adjust himself, or do anything really other than sit and smile. Never see John again. Bartender and I joked that he was an alien who was learning human customs and how to blend in. What a better place to do it than a bar. Maybe not the best ending or whatever, but something was really fucking wrong about John, and I hope I never see him again. Live off deep in the Holler. Drive out to one of my backwoods spots to go camping. 3 hours into 5-hour hike before I reach my camping spot. Nice day, fresh air, clear skies, occasional animal noises in the distance. Getting that oneness feeling with nature. Here's some rustling up the hill off the path I'm treading. It's a fucking dude. He's stumbling down the hill. He's walking funny, like a puppet on strings walk. Very weird looking. My memory kicks in. There were no other cars parked in the offshoot that leads to the forest trail I'm treading. We are on the edge of fucking nowhere. There is nothing out there for hundreds of miles from the direction he came from. It's just fucking forest. That's when he started to laugh and call out, "Hello there!" That's when I unholstered my gun. This dude stumbles onto the trail. He has a real jovial demeanor about him. I rack my slide, Gen 1 S&W MNP, no safety. He waves as he walks towards me on the trail. I aim at this dude and yell, "That's close enough." This dude is completely unfazed with me pointing a gun at him. He just keeps laughing and waving. Weird ass gait to his walk. Almost serpentine swivel to his legs, but his body didn't move right. Like puppet strings were moving him. It was uncanny as fuck. I've heard enough stories about things in the woods from X and other places to know where this shit goes down. I will fucking kill you. I am not fucking around. I say this really fast and loud. If there's any semblance of sanity in this creature, I want them to know they will soon be ventilated. Undeterred, he keeps wiggling, walking towards me. This is after I pointed a gun at him and threatened to shoot this motherfucker. I can clearly discern his facial features. He looked normal enough. You'd be forgiven for mistaking him for a human for sure, if it wasn't for that weird ass walk. He was wearing a sweater and jeans, just a regular dude by any other account. Said dude is less than 10 meters away at this point, and he continues with a laugh and disjointed conversation starters. "It's nice to meet ya." Internal monologue goes, "Fuck it," and I dump 5 or 6 rounds of 40 into this guy. I pause for a moment, because he stops walking after those shots. I think I hit him. He wasn't bleeding though. He didn't scream or wince or anything. He just stood there. Then he falls. He settles in an awkward position, like the joints and bones aren't connected right. It's like someone put human together without knowing how skeletal structure works. Swear to God. Crickle Man contorted into a mess of shapes on the trail floor, zipped off like a fucking bird and disappears into the underbrush. I heard a rapid pitter-patter of steps that gradually fade into the fucking woods with twigs and branches snapping as Crickle Man gets further away. I noped out of there hard. It was already 2:30, and by 4:30 it's gonna be getting dark in the forest, or darker. Then I'd feel comfortable being with Crinkle Man out there. On the spot, I dumped my tent and sleeping bag and everything I was okay with leaving there, because I needed to turn a 3-hour hike into a 1 hour and 30-minute hike. There was no fucking way I was going to get caught in the forest after dark with the fucking Crinkle Man wiggle walking up to my ass. Fuck that. With the bare essentials on my person, I double timed it back the way I came. Luckily, it was mostly downhill, so I wasn't fighting gravity like when I came up. I took care to not run too fast, because if I twisted my ankle or fell and hurt myself, I knew I would be well and truly fucked if the Crinkle Man was creeping around. At 3:45, the sun was already starting to not show through the trees as much. A slight panic had started to get into me, but I remained calm and kept my brisk pace. I got back to my car at fucking 4:20. I looked back into the forest. Apparently my eyes had adjusted to it because it was dark as fuck. 20 meters back into it, and the shadows just created a cave-like darkness into the nethers of the underbrush. Get in my car and get the fuck out of there. I don't know what that thing was, but it wasn't gonna be wearing my skin. I don't know if that thing is still out there, but I don't camp in that neck of the woods now. I'm not going back for my tent or other kit. It's just not worth it for that stretch of the woods. A friend of my dad's would babysit me sometimes when I was little. Mom wasn't in the picture, and he used to tell a story to me that scares the absolute shit out of me to this day. Dad's friend, I'll call him Bob, is driving a rig out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Oregon. He has to make a delivery by the following morning, so he decides to just drive through the night. It's like 1 in the morning, no one else is out on the roads. Hasn't seen another car in probably hundreds of miles. He's literally in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly, the whole entire sky lights up, instantly, like daylight. Bob fucking slams on the brakes. He has no idea what the hell is going on. Everything stays lit up for a good solid 10 seconds. He can see everything. Whatever's happening, it's not lightning. It doesn't stop or flicker at all. Bob hunkers down, anticipating imminent nuclear devastation. Suddenly, sky goes dark again. No sound, no blast wave. He sits there in the middle of the road, waiting for almost 5 minutes. Then decides to keep going. Figures it was a meteor or something. Goes about 2 miles up the road and sees a car with its flashers on, stopped in the middle of the road. Stops a good distance away from it. There's not enough room to go around it. Front end of the car is crumpled, like it hit something. Bob figures they probably hit a deer that got spooked whenever the meteor went over and ran into the road. He gets out of the cab and goes to see if the driver's okay. Driver's sitting on the ground by the driver's side door, has his knees up and is resting his head in his arms. "Hey buddy, you okay?" Bob calls. He stops about 10 feet away for seemingly no reason. Something about the whole situation feels weird. Bob is one of those guys that always listens to his gut, so he stays put. "God, my head is killing me," the guy says, but he doesn't lift his head up so it's muffled. "Did you hit a deer?" Bob asks. He's getting more and more uneasy. Something's wrong, but he still can't figure out what exactly it is. The guy says he thinks he might have hurt his head. Asks Bob to please help him. Bob takes a step forward, but his instincts are going apeshit. He looks at everything again. That's when he notices it. The fucking car is all wrong. It looks like what someone thinks a car looks like. It has all the right pieces, but there's nothing extra, if that makes sense. Bob says it looked like a cheap Hot Wheels knockoff. It just looked wonky and wrong. He looks around at the back of the car and realizes that not only is there no license plate, there's not even a trunk. It's just one solid piece of metal with taillights put in it. There's no manufacturer or model names. Bob knows cars, and this thing is nothing like he's ever seen before. From where he's standing, he can see there's no tailpipe or even hubcaps. It's just the shape of a car. He starts to back up, and the guy asks him for help again. Bob tells him he can't help him, and that he'll call him a tow truck when he gets to the next town. The guy lifts his head and looks at Bob, tells him he thinks he might have a concussion. Something is really wrong with the guy's face, but again, it takes a second for Bob to figure it out. The next part is exactly how Bob described it. Everything on the man's face was where it should have been, in their normal positions. He looked totally normal, except for the fact that his eyes and mouth were upside down. Bob goes apeshit and sprints back to his rig, climbs in, locks the door just in time for the man to slam the door behind him. How the fuck did he get there so fast? He knocks on the glass and smiles at Bob, but because his mouth is upside down, it looks like he's screaming. Tells Bob to open the door so he can come in. Bob fucking floors it. Doesn't care if he hits the guy or not. His truck easily pushes the car out of the way. Whatever it is, it's light and it makes no sound when he hits it. Unfortunately, it's an anticlimactic ending. Bob got where he was going fine, with no other problems. My dad knows the story, but I don't think he believes it. But Bob tells it to everyone he meets, so he obviously does. He's absolutely adamant about the guy being an alien. Years later, I heard about the Thatcher effect and nearly had a fucking heart attack when I saw it. I showed one of the pictures to Bob, and he wouldn't even look at it. He says it's exactly what the guy looked like. Pic very much related.